Good evening. Welcome to the Elyria City Council meeting for Monday, March 3rd, 2025. At this time, we'll take a moment of reflective silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Tollett, would you please lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Tollett. I'd ask at this time if you could please turn off your cell phones, either to the off or silent mode, be greatly appreciated. Mr. Clerk, I have roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Callahan.
Here.
Mr. Sierra.
Here.
Mr. Armstrong.
Here.
Mr. Oswald. Mrs. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Tollett.
Here.
Mr. Lippian. Mrs. Sawerka. Mrs. Davis.
Here.
Mr. Schneider.
Here.
Mr. Stewart.
Here.
We have two absent, and we have excuses.
Wonder, do those need to be separate, or can they be concurrent together for both excused absences?
Through you, Mr. President, they could be done together if the motion sets that out.
Okay. Can I get a motion for Mr. Lippian and Mr. Sawerka? Moved by Mr. Sierra.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Public hearings.
There are none.
Can I get approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Remarks and reports from city officials. Mayor Brubaker is out. Safety Service Director Pianowski.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President. The mayor was in today for a couple of hours. He's still recovering from his shoulder surgery, but he seems to be doing well and is in good spirits. We continue to work in his absence to make sure everything is taken care of. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to discuss, I'm here and happy to do so. Thanks.
Any questions for the Safety Service Director? Okay. Finance Director Plesky.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we have everything posted in the general fund for February. February was a better month than January. So in February, expenditures exceeded revenues by $36,440.63. We had revenues of $2,942,349.46. Expenditures of $2,978,790.09. So the first 2 months of the year, our cash balance has dropped in the general fund $1,230,751.21. So income tax revenues are up about 5% through February, so that's a good thing. So, and then in March, we should see our first property tax. We get 2 property tax distributions through the year, so we should get our first of 2 in March. So,
Very good. Any questions for the Finance Director? Mr. Schneider, then Mr. Tollett.
Through you, Mr. President, to Director. Pileski, did you say in our previous meetings when we gain about $1 million off of property tax, was that for one half collection, or that was for the half, right?
so the property taxes are distributed into 4 different funds. So part of it goes in the general fund. Most of it goes in the general bond retirement fund to pay long-term bonds. And by law, I believe it's 0.4 mils, 0.3 or 0.4, I can't recall, go into the police pension fund and the fire pension fund. So each distribution is about $1.5 million split between those 4 funds.
Thank you.
Mr. Tollett.
Through you, Mr. President. I read Mr. Farrell's report that came out, and from his report, it looked like our loss was January, and we actually gained a little amount in February. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, we're still below revenues in February. It's pretty flat, 36,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the finance director? Thank you, Mr. Plesky. Law Director Deary.
Good evening through you, Mr. President. I anticipate that the amendments to the codified ordinances with respect to adult marijuana usage will be going to Planning Commission for the April meeting. I do want to let council know that I've been in talks with Finance Director Pileski with respect to revenues which may be coming from that. I don't want to put words in Mr. Pileski's mouth, but it is my understanding that the city's not yet seen anything yet as far as monies from the state, and it may be a while till we do. Also, I've been keeping a close eye, as well as I know the Finance Office has, because the General Assembly is looking to perhaps drastically change the formula and the amount that local host communities will be receiving for having dispensaries and cultivators, et cetera, in their communities. So I don't think that's entirely unexpected, although I know that that is not what the voters were, well, that's not what they voted on, since that's not what was before them, but we will have to basically stay tuned to see how that all shakes out in Columbus. Also, the Common Pleas Court will have another phone conference on Days In. We're monitoring that. So I will tell you that our office filed a notice and a motion to have the receiver appointed due to the fact that many benchmarks were not hit based upon the agreement that was reached right at the beginning of the year with the property owner. So I should have more information for you within the next few weeks, hopefully at the next council meeting.
Any questions for the Law Director? Finance Director Pileski, you want to weigh in on
Thank you,
that?
Mr. President. Just to add in about the recreational marijuana monies, I did read an article this past week where they are looking at the formula, and it's possible that we may not receive any monies. The state's budget runs from July 1 to June 30th, and so their 25-26 budget does not include any appropriation. So I thought we would be getting money this year, but does not look like we will. So if it's going to be appropriated, it'll be in the 26-27 budget. So, but they are looking at eliminating monies going to the host cities.
Any other questions for the Law Director Deary? Okay. Leary Police Department, Interim Chief Grooms.
Good evening. Through you, Mr. President. I have no report. However, I do have two requests to make, both of which are time sensitive. The first, I'd like to make a referral from the floor, and that is to apply for an OCJS, the Office of Criminal Justice for the state of Ohio, to apply for grant monies to help us assist with our violent crime reduction program. This grant would allow us not only, like we've done in the past, to fund overtime details for violent crime details, but also this one allows for us to spend monies on community engagement. So we'd like to do that as well within this grant.
Let me interrupt you there then, Chief Grooms. Law Director Deary, can we'll just handle each one separately at this particular time. Law Director Deary, is that just a motion on the floor in regards to granting this?
Through you, Mr. President, so my understanding is that this is a referral. The application deadline's March 19th, therefore, Chief Grooms, are you requesting that, through you, Mr. President, are you requesting that this would go to Finance the next Monday so that it would be able to, your application would be able to be ratified?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is basically just to go through into President's referrals this evening.
Okay, so I stand corrected because I thought we're trying to do something on the floor here to kind of get it.
You said two different things, correct? And this is the first?
This is the first one, but he has a second one, but I guess the process, even though the referral was, generally our referrals come in on Thursday, this is what the timeline is, but just to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly and everyone else here is, so you want to have this referred to the next Finance Committee meeting to have this
Correct.
processed?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's fine, we'll go ahead and request that, we'll make that appropriate, change to put it on for the referral. No, you're good? Okay. Safety Service Director, did you want to weigh in on that?
Through you, Mr. President, I just thought our conversation today was that we were going to ask for approval tonight and not. I don't know why, if it's a grant opportunity and an application, obviously it's up to the council, but if you don't foresee a lot of need to have that conversation in the committee, I would ask that maybe we could go ahead and pass it tonight. That way, when we put in the application, we know it's approved and so forth and so on.
You're right.
Mr. President, I would make that motion to approve. the
So I have a
grant tonight.
motion on the floor and a second by Mr. Schneider. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
And-
Chief, the second.
I'm sorry, through you, Mr. President, just for some housekeeping. I know some entities, depending on what agency it is, require some sort of legislation. I mean, due to the time frame, what we can always do is we can always do a resolution or an ordinance, sometimes there's a preference, that just basically says that the application's ratified basically retroactively. If I don't know if this would be the case, but if that would be the case, due to the time crunch, we could always do that after the fact.
We can,
Yeah.
what you received, you have enough to move forward with it.
Okay.
Tonight.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we could apply for it.
Oh, sure, no, absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
I think everybody, and I think council, definitely, I don't want to speak for you,
So
but
you- So you'll be
I
able
think
to
everybody's
proceed
on
with
board
what
with
you're
that.
trying to do over and through here, and then we'll revisit it, ratifying back in there. So you're good to go.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
We'll
you.
let you follow up on the second one then.
All right, so the second one is, I'm seeking permission to send one of our detectives to training up in Vancouver, British Columbia. We've long been a member of the Northern Ohio Violent Crimes Consortium, and a partnership agency is the International Association of Law Enforcement Intelligent Analysts. This is a conference that will provide training, totally reimbursed by the people putting it on. They will receive training in crime intelligence analysts, real-world case studies, investigative and analytic techniques, and statistical analysis. And this class will be held from April 7th through the 11th.
Okay. And it's just time sensitive as far as the mileage as well. You need to waive that.
Just planning for, travel.
Sure.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the travel.
Motion by Mr. Tolet, second by Mr. Sears. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay. Anything else to report,
No, thank you.
Mr. Schneider?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just curious, with the FBI training facility, has there been any issues with all the changes going on federal level with staffing and funding and things of that nature? Has it impacted us at all yet?
It appears Director Pianowski would like to.
Law Director, did you want to weigh on something, or Safety
Through
Service
you,
Director as
yes, I
well?
was just, that you had hands up on that side of the room.
Okay, I'm
Got
head
that
on
direct
both
line
on.
of sight.
Safety Service Director Pianowski.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President. We've actually met a couple of times to explore that exact question, and we've since had conversations with the FBI to make sure funding is there. We did just get back bids, so it's timely to have those conversations. Let's not commit to spending money before we make sure we have it. So we actually have a follow-up meeting this week where I think we'll be able to confirm some of those things. We've downsized one of the structures to get within the financial commitment that we have from the federal government, from the FBI, and so we will look to see that start moving forward in a very identifiable way. And that will include the sound barriers and all those types of things. I know that's definitely, that's part of it, and we talked about how important those were to the surrounding area. And so those are budgeted for. And so we will confirm a couple of those things this week in our follow-up meeting. We've been going back and forth, having some conversations to make sure we're in the right place before we start putting shovels in the ground to build buildings.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Good, thank you, chief. You're good to go? All right, thank you. The fire department, Chief Pernesti. Any questions for the chief? Very good, thank you. City engineer, Mr. Schneider. Any questions for the engineer? Chief building official, Mr. Farkas.
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. A quick update on demolition carryovers from last year. We are still in the process of working on 327 West River Road. New ownership has taken over and is making repairs, hopefully to resolve that and take it off the condemnation status. 330 West River Road is the one that was hit by a vehicle last year. That one we are moving forward with demolition. New one on the list is 115 Tannery. We're in the process of that one. 130 Cedar Street, we have initiated the warrant process. And 317 Fuller is a commercial project that the ownership has chosen to start demolition without approvals. We're currently working through that with them to get the proper permits in place. Other than that, employee update. We are working in-house with one of our property maintenance inspectors that has been recently promoted to residential building inspector. As we had, as many of you know, a residential person hired. That person didn't work out. We hired within, and that's a nice bump up for this person. He's bright, very sharp, and we're currently in the process of interviewing for property maintenance inspectors. We're in round 2 of interviews coming up soon, hopeful.
Very good.
That's it.
Any questions? Mr. Oswald and then Mr. Armstrong.
Through you, Mr. President. So, Mr. Farkas, about a month ago, I stopped in your office and I seen a stack of blueprint. It was about this tall. And it was, you were going to go through it for the project that Kevin Flanagan's doing over here. Do you have an update on that, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you, that project has been approved. It's been ready for about a good month and a half. It's just waiting payment of fees, and it's ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Armstrong?
Through you, President. Mr. Farkas, I just want to say thank you for 317 Fuller. I know you've had a hard time with this one, and I want to say thank you. The residents are going to be definitely happy. And then especially about 115 Tannery, I'm definitely excited about that one because, you know, I've been fighting for that one for a long time also. So I know you don't hear it a lot, but thank you, sir. Tell your team also thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions for Mr. Farkas? All right, thank you. I think that's everybody. Petitions and President's referrals and remonstrances. Item number 1, community development. Item number 2, planning commission, community development. Item number 3, planning commission, strategic planning. Item number 4, community development, joint community development and finance. Item number 5, finance committee. Item number 6, finance committee. Petitions and remonstrances from the lobby.
There are none.
Petitions and remonstrances from council members.
There are none.
Reports of standing and special committees.
There are none.
Resolutions, first reading.
Sponsored by Finance, a resolution approving the list of properties for the collection of emergency temporary repair costs and/or demolition-related costs, and directing the clerk of council to certify said costs to the Lorraine County Auditor.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion
Question.
on the suspension? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2025-12. Sponsored by Finance. A resolution adopting the 2024 report of the Elyria Tax Incentive Review Council and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schneider. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2025-13. Sponsored by Finance. A resolution finding that the city has unfit for municipal use certain city property.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2025-14. Sponsored by Finance. A resolution finding that the city has unfit for municipal use certain city property.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schneider. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2025-15. That's all resolutions first reading.
Resolutions second reading.
There are none.
Resolutions third reading.
There are none.
Ordinances first reading.
Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director of the City of Elyria to dispose of city property that is unfit for municipal use.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schneider. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2025-34. Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director of the City of Elyria to dispose of city property that is unfit for municipal use.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schneider. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called on the suspension. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2025-35. That's all ordinances first reading.
Ordinances second reading.
There are none.
Ordinances third reading.
There are none.
Committee calls.
Community Development requests the Law Director, Safety Service Director, Building Inspector, and Engineer on Monday, 3/10, beginning at 6 p.m. Joint CD Finance requests the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Monday, 3/10, immediately following the CD. Finance requests the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Monday, 3/10, immediately following the joint. Utilities request the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Wednesday, 3/19, beginning at 6 p.m. And Strategic Planning requests the Mayor, Safety Service Director, Finance Director, Law Director on Monday, 3/17, immediately following council.
Very good. Miscellaneous and unfinished business? Mr. Oswald?
Just a comment. Lately, I've seen like I've been getting a few calls, and maybe it's because of the weather, and then just to let safety service know, we're getting a lot of vehicles that are driving up from Amazon, and they're driving a little bit off of the road to get out of the way, and they're trashing people's yards. It seems like I'm getting more and more calls, and we're getting more and more Amazon drivers out there. We're getting deliveries, and I don't know if there's any anything we can do. We probably don't have a leg to stand on with the company that's that big, but the people want to put a rock in the front, and we say, we can't put a rock there because there's going to be a problem, and I don't know if there's a good solution, but I just wanted somebody to give some thought and see if there's anything that we can do. But, you know, the residents are the ones that are having to deal with these drivers, so I just want to make a comment.
Mr. Oswald? Is there any other miscellaneous and unfinished business? Ms. Mitchell?
Seeing none, Mr. President, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
You got it.
Okay. Well, it's, okay, so when you're on Southwood,